afternoon. You're listening to Awaz Community Radio, streaming live on the internet. You are in tune with the Apprenticeship Hours show. On today's show, we have a special guest with us today. Forgot to mention ask his name, Mr.
Pasha Shah.
Mr. Pasha Shah from Qaaf Aid. And today's show, this show is all about finding out, speaking to apprenticeship providers, employers, finding out about what are the barriers employers are facing in finding out about apprenticeships, and also from a prospective learner, apprentice perspective, how difficult, what are the barriers they're facing in finding out about apprenticeships. So I'll pass it over to Fajo.
Hi Pasha, first of all I just want to welcome you to the show. Thank you very much for coming over and taking the time out. I know you're flying to Pakistan on Saturday, so thank you very much. And you've just returned from Africa, so a very busy job you have as a director of Qaaf Aid. I'm just going to pass it on to you so you can introduce yourself and the charity.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me here. Yes, I'm Pasha Shah, director of Qaaf Aid. Our organisation is a charity. We are a children's charity. Our main focus is to develop children's homes in different parts of the developing world, and to develop citizens of the future. So the idea is that our children's homes will develop, take the most poorest and underprivileged children, orphans, and develop them into citizens of the future. We also have a water well program, which means we develop water wells in places where it's very difficult to find water. So places in deepest, darkest parts of the world, in places, remote places of Africa, we develop water wells, and we also develop a whole host of other initiatives as well. We work in Palestine, we work in Gaza, and we also are the only British NGO working in Jerusalem, and we work in Jerusalem with children in particular neighbourhoods where they are underprivileged and have very little. So those are the kinds of initiatives that we're involved in.
So you're doing quite a bit of work, aren't you? It sounds like a very big charity to me.
It's not a very big charity. We have a very big heart. But in terms of organisation, we're not a huge organisation. I joined the organisation about 7 months ago, and made a conscious decision with my trustees that we were only going to be concentrating in the areas that we have a very strong relationship in those communities, but also work in those areas and on those initiatives that we know will bring the greatest benefits for those communities. So we concentrate in places like Mombasa, in Kenya, in Gambia we have a project. In Pakistan we have a couple of projects. In Palestine we have a couple of projects, and we also work in Yemen now as well. And there are new and emerging places. The idea is that over a lifetime, inshallah, what our plan is, that if we can have a handful of children in every country across the world who are being developed into citizens of the future, then that's what we want to do. And we want to take these children and make them into well-rounded individuals. The idea then is that they come back into the communities where they were born and develop those communities. For too long, many of these places have been underdeveloped rather than developed, and we want to see how we, in our small way, can address that. So we're not a huge organisation, but we have a big heart and we have a big vision.
That's great to hear. And is it right to say that you're a BME-led organisation? I
think that's a fair description about us. We are a BME-led organisation in that all our trustees are from Black minority ethnic heritage. We have value systems within the organisation that's steeped within that. We are a Muslim-led organisation because most of our donations come from people out of either zakat or either out of sadaqah money. I have to stipulate that all of our money, and this is very important, something I'm very proud about, that every single penny of the donation goes 100% to the cause. We have a mechanism to ensure that, and that's the other reason why we are a small charity. we're a small charity. Our resources are tied to the projects that we deliver.
Fantastic. So in terms of the staff you employ, how many staff do you employ at the moment?
At the moment, we have approximately 5 staff. I say approximately because some of our staff are part-time, but we have 5 staff that are working within the organisation at the moment. But that's not including people who work for us in other countries. So we have local staff in the countries where we operate as well.
Of course. Okay. So within the apprenticeship research project that we're working on, we're looking at speaking to employers such as yourself who employ members of local community, and we want to find out if you've ever experienced trying to take an apprentice on. Have you ever thought about it? Do you know about it? How much or you don't know about it at all? So give us just share your view too.
Well, I'll tell you where we're at with regards to apprentices and how we view them, and where we as an organisation are with regards to apprentices. Yes, we know what apprentices are, and we value apprentices, and we think apprenticeships are an amazing way of social enterprise, and that social enterprise is something that's very dear to our hearts. We develop social enterprise projects all over the place, but no, we don't have any apprentices, and the reason why we don't have any apprentices is because we have a very strong volunteer program. So we get a lot of people who are volunteering for us, and also because of the nature of our charity. Our charity works on a very tight budget, which means that we unfortunately are very scarce in resources, and so especially in terms of staffing. That isn't to say that work doesn't need to be done. It basically means that people who work for our organisation are multitasked, so they have to do a number of different things, and that could be anything from helping coordinate fundraising programs all the way through to actually physically getting blankets together for a convoy that's going to Syria. So our staff have to be multitasked, and we have to therefore apply our staff and their expertise to how much they're getting paid, and we don't have very much more money to spend towards apprentices, unfortunately.
So would you say that you generally employ people who already have training and experience in terms of the people that you actually employ? So
Yes, we do. We only have people who have the skills and the expertise of this kind of work that we do. If we had resources, if we were a bigger charity, if we had the capability, then apprenticeships would be the route that we would take, absolutely. But we don't have that luxury, unfortunately.
Just to add on to that, would you be keen to recruit people with the university education?
For me personally, university education is critical. I myself come from a background in international development. That's yes, my heart has always been in charity, but technically speaking, my background is in international development. I have a master's degree from Manchester University on international development. So I have a very strong sway towards bringing in university graduates, mainly because the problem with charity is that a lot of the times people who work within charity work with the goodness of their heart, but they don't have the understanding of what's happening in developing countries. And that theoretical background is really important. It's really important to understand why Africa is in poverty. And it's really important to understand the political situation of many of these countries, and also the sociological backdrops to many of these countries. So bringing in university graduates, for me, would be critical. And that's something that I don't make any shortcuts on.
But would you not say that, let's say if you take an apprentice on, then will the apprentice not be able to learn all of that through the apprenticeship route?
They would understand the the technical requirements, I think, and that is very important equally. In order to understand, and this is where I think the university graduates, there's swings and roundabouts. A person who's going through an apprenticeship will have the technical experience, yes, can gain technical experience. That's very, very important. And the university graduate may have too much theory. So therefore, for them to be geared up to understanding the technical stuff, we'd have to put in a support network, training, etc., to put that in. So I can understand your argument. In an ideal world, a mixture of the two would be perfect.
So you would prefer a graduate over an apprentice?
I would prefer an apprentice who we could probably shape, and this goes back to resources, if we could get enough money in to get this individual on a part-time university course, once they've become employed by us, once the apprenticeship's over, then that would be perfect for me. But we don't have the resources to be able to do that, unfortunately.
But do you know, are you aware of the fact that if you take an apprentice on, first of all, the government gives you £1,500 for taking an apprentice on, and then in Greater Manchester, there's another offer called the Greater Manchester Commitment, which tops up with another £750 on top. So in total, you're getting how much? How much that turns up to be? 1,500 plus 750.
Yeah.
And you're only paying an apprentice about £2.68 per hour as well. So, financially, you've got that support coming in as well.
Well, it's something that I need to look at. It's something I definitely need to look at. Yes, there's areas that we need to develop that sure this could really help us out. And this is the monies and the financial information is something that I need to ponder over.
I mean, not to put you on a spot, not at all, because obviously what we're finding after speaking to a number of employees is that information or awareness is not there. So
I couldn't agree more. I mean, as far as I know, apprenticeships, it's a very theoretical understanding that I know. Practically, no. And I think that's the problem. Many of us. I've worked, as you know, in the public sector for a very long time, but actually, how does apprenticeship actually practically work out in terms of pounds, penny and pence is not something that information has been readily made available to me.
Yeah.
And that's a very attractive proposition.
I think while you're here, I can tell you there's a National Apprenticeship Service website, and on this website there's a link for employers where you can go in, and actually it's got a calculator. So it's called the investment return calculator. So you can put some numbers in and it'll tell you, let's say if you take an apprentice on, then financially how much better off you will be. So something that, when in your time is something that you could look at.
I think it is something that we should look at. The other thing is for charities. See, charities I think are obliged and should be obliged to not just work on the great things that they do abroad, but they should be obliged to work here as well in the UK in developing the economy of where their donors are. Now we get volunteers who give their time effortlessly and they work really, really well, and that is the lifeline for charities. So, but for smaller charities like ours, that's economically a very very sound proposition, because even £2, what did you say?
£2.65, is it?
£2.65.
Yes. Don't comment about that.
An hour for a small charity is still quite a lot of money for a small charity. But for larger charities, it's not a lot of money.
No, it's not.
And larger charities can afford to do that. And I would throw the gauntlet at the behest of larger charities and ask them why aren't they doing this, because they should be doing this.
Yeah.
Because they get volunteers.